Exactly 1 year had passed since the release of Medarot 2 on the 23rd of July of 1999. Since then, a couple of games and other related media was created, but on July of 2000, the Medarot 3 manga began its serialization. On the 23rd of July of 2000, the new mainline entry in the video game series was released, as usual in Kabuto and Kuwagata versions. After dealing with the Robo gang and a mad scientist in Medarot 2, Iki Tendril went back to his daily life. The game starts with him dreaming. He sees a shooting star falling in the distance, but as he approaches it, he notices a man. This man points upwards and Iki realizes that, holy crap dude, you're on the moon. And then it ends as Iki hears someone call his name. After the first of the fancy new chapter screens, our protagonist finds himself in his room and gets lambasted by his partner for dozing off. Iki's mother then entrusts him with buying some eggs at the local supermarket. Because that went so well last time when he came back home with a robot but not the ingredients. However, before departing, he notices that his Medawatch is strangely unresponsive. His mother also seems to have caught a cold. At the supermarket, he talks with Hikaru, the protagonist of Medarot 1, old world champion of row battling, the person who got Iki started with Medabots, and the lowly store clerk who came down with a cold. The passage of time remains unkind to Hikaru Agata. Why? What have you done to deserve this? Iki gets the eggs and chats for a bit with Hikaru and Erika, who just arrived. The conversation gets interrupted by an announcement on television, however. Yuki, the vice president of the Medarot company and old protagonist of Medarot Parts Collection 2, announces a Medabots tournament, the Medolympics. The prize for winning the competition? A trip into space. It goes without saying that Iki and friends want to join the tournament. They decide to head to the park for some training, so much for the eggs. Over at the park, the screws are being a bunch of pricks. Again. The game's first battles take place here. As is usual for the series, you start with a different Medabot depending on which version you're playing. On the Kabuto version you get Metabi, while on the Kuwagata version you get Rokusho. This time around that's not all though, but you'll see in a few minutes. Once you're done smacking these potatoes around, Samantha tries to summon a few more Medabots. Iki goes to summon some of his own, which I'm positively sure he has even if you can't see them, but nothing happens. It turns out that the remaining data in everyone's Medawatches was erased. Oh dear. And the worst part? The eggs are all broken. This all kicks off Iki's new adventure. Soon enough, you'll be fighting the Robo gang once again, but it's not quite so simple. According to the professor, the data erasure was caused by a magnetic storm, but it seems that this wasn't caused by the Robo gang. Instead, an entirely new enemy shows up as the plot unravels. You will also have to compete in the tournaments, forming a team of 3 Robators. Iki and Erika unwillingly join forces with Samantha of all people. What could possibly go wrong? Medarot 3 goes quite in depth into the backstory of the series and the origin of the medals and the robots themselves. The character designs have also been updated to those seen in the anime, effectively establishing them as the canon designs. Even the remake of Medarot 2 uses the new designs instead of the ones seen in the original game. Your robotic partner is back to speaking too, which was a thing that happened in Medarot Perfect Edition, but not Medarot 2. Metabi and Rokusho act pretty much the same as in the anime. Metabi is a rebellious, cheeky little guy with a short fuse, while Rokusho is a standoffish and cynical sort of character. I guess you could say that Medarot 3 is the start of Medarot as we know it today. Medarot 1 was an experiment, with the developers trying out their ideas and seeing what worked. And it kind of sucked. But the potential was there. Medarot 2 greatly improved on those ideas and built upon them, but still had a few quirks like its lack of balancing. Medarot 3 is the culmination of the series' previous efforts and non-efforts, and you know what? It's pretty good. Contrary to the previous Game Boy titles, Medarot 3 is a Game Boy Color exclusive, and it shows. The game has received a visual update, particularly in battle. The Medabots move in a hexagonal arena now, and the layout has been revamped. It's not merely visual, however. The arena is now separated into two sections. The charge area, where speed is affected by the weapon's charging and cooldown times, and the terrain area, where speed is affected by the leg parts. There are a couple of other smaller changes as well. Armor values are displayed individually like in Medarot Perfect Edition. You can now select a Medaforce even if you don't have enough charged up when you select it, leading to strategies such as using one Medabot to charge another's Medaforce. Critical hits are now a thing, which looking back was kind of an unusual omission. You have a higher chance of obtaining new parts if you destroy more of them in battle. There is also an NPC that explains to you how the mechanics and stats work. The proficiency system got reworked as well. They still increase by using the appropriate parts during combat, but medals now only have 3 base proficiencies instead of having all of them available. Instead, they have 3 slots where you can insert gems called medallions. Medallions provide the medal with new proficiencies. Early on, during Chapter 2, you get introduced to another new mechanic, Meta Change. Certain Medabot models have the ability to meta change during battle, changing their abilities. Their movement type changes, their weapons change, and the separate armor bars get unified into one, meaning that the Medabot has no separate weapons to lose. They can also still use Medaforce while transformed. The game introduces this mechanic to the player by giving their partner a fancy new upgrade. Metabee gets upgraded to a new KBT model named Saikachis, while Rokusho upgrades to a new KWG model named Dorcas. Well, I say upgrade, but the new parts all lose 10 points of armor. But hey, now they can go vroom vroom. It's a nice addition to the gameplay, although I feel that it kind of goes against the rest of the game. Having a transformation for every single part combination would obviously require a ridiculous amount of time and effort, so only certain complete models can perform it. However, isn't part of the whole appeal of the series being able to mix and match a variety of different parts? Meta change requires all the parts of a respective model. In the vast majority of cases, an individual Medabot has a specific fighting style. For example, Metabee is focused on ranged attacks, while Rokusho is focused on melee. The function of the medallion system is adding proficiencies to medals that don't natively support them. However, if you're stuck using parts with the same proficiencies, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of adding several medallions. Take Metabee for example. His weapons use the shooting and sniping proficiencies, but the Kabuto medal already comes with those proficiencies by default, so you have no reason to use medallions with Metabee. All you really use it for is enabling a specific proficiency in your first few medals, since you don't have many to pick from. I also think it's a bit of a shame that you can't stack them. The slot with the highest value is the one that's used. The game specifically tells you this, and the screen even points out which of the slots is being used, so the developers were definitely aware of this. That said, it's not really a big problem, and the idea behind the medallion system is still nice. As I've said some minutes before, the visuals got a nice upgrade. The Medabot sprites and the dialogue portraits look great, the interface is colorful and easy to use, and the overworld is just plain nice in that Game Boy top-down style that we all know and love. Battle animations are also faster overall, and you can skip the damage text by pressing the A button, which helps quite a lot. The music is also just as good as always. In addition to the classic battle theme, you can now select from 2 more. They're not bad, but if you allow me to nitpick for a bit, I have to say that they sound more like event music rather than a regular battle theme. Also interesting to note is the usage of a few actual voice clips.
全国のロボトルファンの皆さん、お待たせいたしました。私、ロボトル協会公認レフェリー、ミスターウルチです。行くぞ、タイマンで真剣ロボトルだ。お、望むところだ。ちょっと、そんな に。
The Game Boy Color isn't exactly the most appropriate hardware for this sort of thing, but they sound surprisingly good. With all these factors combined, Medarot 3 makes for a very nice package, and I'd say that it's one of the best RPGs on the Game Boy Color. But of course, you know what the existence of another Medarot game means? It means there's another parts collection. Released on the 24th of November of 2000, Medarot 3 Parts Collection, Super Battlefield from Z, is once again focused on collecting every part and medal. It was just another day in Ikki's daily life. While taking his dog for a walk, however, he sees some ruckus brewing up in town. A pair of thieves calling themselves Z-Mask and Z-Lady assaulted the Medarot Company building and stole their parts. You know, this sounds kind of familiar. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Hikaru seems to be missing too, but I'm completely 100% positively sure that his disappearance has nothing to do with this situation. Nothing at all. Z-Mask steals Ikki's Medawatch and issues him a challenge. He invites Ikki to the Raw Battle World, where the strongest Meda fighters in the universe have gathered. Naturally, Ikki accepts his proposal. After somehow teleporting him to the Raw Battle World, Z-Mask explains your objective. There are 12 areas with 9 rooms each, and you have to find the key medal in each area in order to proceed to the next one. Inside each room is someone you have to fight in order to obtain their parts. The 8 outer rooms need to be completed before you can access the center room, where you'll find the key medals. It's similar to the previous parts collection games, although this one has something that was sorely lacking in its predecessors. What was it called? Oh right, fun. While it's still obviously an excuse to recycle the main game's assets, this particular parts collection actually isn't half bad. The excuse plot is, well, an excuse plot, but there was considerably more effort put into the interactions with the various characters. Sometimes they give you simple tasks, like getting an item from another character, and instead of all of them basically being in a vacuum completely separated from the rest of the world, they refer to each other sometimes. It's usually just silly things, but they do a decent job at spicing up the game. Unlike Medarot 2 Parts Collection, the gameplay in this one won't make you want to repeatedly slam your head against a nearby wall. There are no infuriating special battles with preset Medabots for starters. Winning battles also earns you raw battle points, which you can then spend on a few shops once you reach the second area. You can buy some parts, medals, medallions, and most importantly, timpets. You can buy up to 7 male or female timpets, allowing you to start customizing your team very quickly. In previous parts collection games, the parts, medals and timpets were acquired as you linearly advanced throughout the areas. This time you have a lot more freedom, which is nice considering this is basically supposed to be a sandbox to play with. But of course, now that the developers figured out how to make parts collection not suck, they stopped making them. Indeed, this would be the final parts collection game. Ikki's adventures aren't over yet though. The following mainline game in the series, Medarot 4, is the conclusion to his saga, but that will have to wait for another day.